Good housekeeping is the backbone of a great hotel. Hi, everyone. My name is Paula. I'm a partner marketing specialist at Cloudbeds, and I'm here today with Erlendur, co-founder and CEO at Sweeply, to talk about opt-in housekeeping. Thank you so much for chatting with us today, Erlendur.
Thank you very much for having me, Paula. Great to be here.
Awesome. So for those who aren't familiar with what Sweeply does, can you sum it up for us, please?
Yes, sure. I'm going to tell you about Sweeply, but maybe I'll give you just a short background about myself. So my background is actually, I'm born and raised in my family actually operated a bed and breakfast in Copenhagen for 30 years. And that's my background, but I've been in software business for also over 20 years. So when I co-founded Sweeply, I actually had the opportunity to combine my background in hospitality with my passion for technology. So combining those two, I co-founded Sweeply. What Sweeply really does is we simplify housekeeping and task management for the hospitality industry and provide less workload and waste and carbon footprint. We have customers in 20 countries around the world, and we have an app and a web app that really delivers exceptional guest experience. How we do that is by making everything around housekeeping, maintenance, guest requests more efficient with the teams that are working within those workflows.
That's nice, and it's really cool that you could combine two passions in one. It's always good when everything comes together in our life, right? Yeah,
that's true.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome. So we are here today to talk about specifically opt-in housekeeping. So let's start from the beginning. So how can you define opt-in housekeeping?
Yeah, so opt-in housekeeping really is a service model where the guests are actually actively choosing when they want to have the rooms cleansed during the stay. So really, instead of kind of automatically providing daily housekeeping, they actually can request how they want it to be. So based on the preferences. And what we really see which is interesting, is that this really gives the guest more control over the stay experience. And we see actually, we have seen our clients measuring it very actively, and they actually see that they get higher guest satisfaction by providing this personal service, which opt-in is actually, or optional housekeeping as we also call it.
Nice. And what is the difference, main difference at least, between opt-in and opt-out housekeeping?
Yeah, good question. So opt-out has been a model that's been running for quite some time in the hospitality industry. So most hotels in some way or another have implemented this already in some form. So what really defines opt-out is the assumption is, again, that daily housekeeping comes as a standard. And if a guest doesn't want it, they have to decline it specifically. Whether they are mentioning during their check-in experience to the front desk, or they have some kind of a sign to put on the door, etc., etc. So this is typically how the opt-in process is working. Opt-out process is working, while the opt-in is, as I said before, is a really service model that really kind of got this kick during and after the pandemic, because we saw many guests, they had preferences or were understandably anxious about having third parties in the rooms. And what we really see that the experience was quite positive for both the guests and also for the hotels. So it kind of stuck around after the pandemic. And also after the pandemic, we saw also hotels having challenges with staff shortages. So optional housekeeping actually is a way also to help with that, because it actually creates less workload in housekeeping for the hotels. And yeah, we see just staff shortage still is an issue around the world. So opt-in is where the guests actually are asking for housekeeping. So the assumption is that you don't want housekeeping unless you specifically tell you when you want housekeeping. So that's the difference. It's vice versa from opt-out, where the standard is that you want housekeeping on a daily basis unless you say you don't want it. So it's a complete opposite of that, of course.
Yeah, no, I really like when you said it before, that it gives more control in it for the guest about their stay. And I think that's something that we always want, to be in control of the things that happen to us. So I can see that it's beneficial for both sides. And talking about benefits, I'm pretty sure you already kind of mentioned some of there, but can you tell us 4 benefits of opt-in housekeeping?
So yeah, I obviously mentioned it, but I think it's what's really interesting with optional housekeeping, because if you think about optional housekeeping in the beginning, you maybe feel that you are providing less service to the guest in the sense that you're obviously providing less daily cleanings. But what we see is, and that's really interesting, we see actually, as I said before, increased guest satisfaction because they appreciate having more control over their experiences, have more personalization in how housekeeping is being provided or tailored during their stay. And so we see higher satisfaction levels. So that's definitely one of the key benefits, I would say, overall, because at the end of the day, everyone, hotel included, the hoteliers, we want to make sure that the guest experience is what we're really thinking about. So we can maybe save costs, but we definitely want to maintain our eye on the guest experience and guest satisfaction. So definitely here, this is contributing to that as well. And then on the other side, you have the operational efficiency. So, you can allocate housekeeping staff more efficiently. You can reduce unnecessary room cleanings and optimize staff workloads. And that leads to the third benefit, which is really the cost savings. So by reducing the frequency of the room cleanings, hotel can save on labor, cleaning supplies, and energy costs associated with housekeeping. And what we are interested, we have now optional housekeeping deployed with hotels, hotel chains around the world. And we see actually from 50 to 90% less daily housekeeping, and these are real numbers. So on average, around 70%, we see less daily housekeeping being provided in the hotels that fully implement this policy, which is just amazing because, again, it's also leading to increased guest satisfaction. So I think it's a really interesting way to contribute to guest satisfaction, cost saving, and operational efficiency, but also not least to the fourth point, which is environmental impact. So by having the fewer cleanings, we are reducing use of electricity, water, and chemical usage. And of course, with that, you as a hotel are being more sustainable, and you are as a guest being part of the optional housekeeping policy, you're also contributing to a more sustainable hotel operations as well. So it's good for everyone. It's good for the guests, it's good for the hotel, and it's good for the environment.
Yeah. The last one, the sustainability that you mentioned, it's still a big thing, and I think it's going to keep being a big thing. Like in terms of the travelers are very aware of this and conscious about the environment and want options, to be more green and to not feel maybe guilty or something. So I think that's really a big benefit for the opt-in housekeeping. But yeah, and I love that you correlate guest satisfaction with opt-in housekeeping, because correct me if I'm wrong, you are the expert, but like I'm talking about years and years ago, maybe just before the pandemic or in the pandemic, when this started to be more popular, maybe some people saw it as like something just to solve a problem, and it is in a sense it is, because we have less people, but it's not that a problem solver. It is actually something that the guest enjoyed, having. So I think that it's really a different perspective of the subject. So I like that.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think, as I said before, having a way to alleviate the guest experience with optional housekeeping and be able to combine that with all the benefits that I mentioned, I think, it really shows that, digital transformation of processes like Sweeply is doing, it's not only kind of taking existing processes and converting them into digital ones, but once you have actually a way of having a digitized process like we do with housekeeping and maintenance and guest services, you can actually start to think a little bit differently. How can I provide the service in a way where I can actually take the experience to the next level? I think it opens a lot of doors and enables the hotel to be much more creative around the experiences. So we see that in a lot of other areas where we see self-check-in, where you have front desk employees also able to be more as a consultant and more like think about the guest experience than just about the check-in process. So and also with Sweeply, you are reducing workload in housekeeping, but at the same time you can utilize the extra time that you get also do improvements to be more proactive in terms of how you clean things or how you are providing service to the guests. So it just opens up a lot of doors to innovate and to be more creative, and at the end of the day make the guest experience a much more enjoyable for the guests. So it's a lot of things here that are really interesting when you start to think really about the impact that you can have with changes to processes like we are doing here.
Okay, we are just already heading to the last question of this short video. And we need you're expert. We want tips. That's our audience always wants. So can you share a few tips when implementing opt-in housekeeping at a property?
Sure, Paula. So definitely one of the key points here is clear communication. So you need to be very clear with the guest. So you're obviously changing something, or at least you're introducing for many guests to something new. So it's very important that you are that the guests are well informed about the opt-in housekeeping at the time of booking and check-in, and the clear communication is key. So there's no misunderstanding in the process. So that's really important. And also, if the guest requires any changes during the stay, so you want to have an easy request process. So if they want to change something, let's say they initially selected to have their housekeeping done this way, but suddenly they want to have it something different or changes to it, you have to make it simple for them to request housekeeping services, either through the mobile app or a communication with the front desk, or even as we also offer in Sweeply, you can have a QR code in the room where they can actually self-manage their housekeeping during the stay. So that's definitely one other thing. And coming to the clear communication, I would say training the staff is very important because, really who is communicating this to the guest? This is your staff. So you need to train the housekeeping and front desk staff just to explain the benefits of optional housekeeping or opt-in housekeeping to the guest and handle requests really efficiently. So the process needs to be really smooth, and you need to have well-trained employees for that to be smooth. And then also it's very important to have some kind of a feedback from the guests, and also to behave overview over how well it's doing. So you have to make sure that you get that you have a system to gather guest feedback on the opt-in housekeeping, and also have an overview how well reports like we have in Sweeply, where you can see how many are choosing optional housekeeping, and just to see the overall progress and how well things are going in terms of this opt-in housekeeping process within your hotels. So I would definitely say these 4 things are the main tips.
Nice. You mentioned the first one was communication, and just want to point out that I think that's of course super important, and maybe a lot of hotels neglected this part of because you're changing a process, you're changing behavior. It's not something easy, it's not something natural. Like we as humans, we don't like to change our habits. We don't like to change process.
That's true.
So I think that's something, I don't know if your experience, do you see now that's been, a few years already that, opt-in housekeeping exists. Do you see that hotels are getting better prepared in terms of communication and training?
Yeah, I think overall hoteliers or hotels have always been very, very aware of the need for training. The question has been, how well do you monitor or measure how well your staff is being trained, and how can you reinforce that? So definitely with digital tools like Sweeply is, you have a better way to see actually how well you're implementing the processes, and have a more real-time feedback on actually how well it's working. So I think in that way, we have no better tool to understand where we need to reinforce training, where we need to do better. And in that regard, we are doing better in terms of training the employees. And we're also seeing, just in terms of optional housekeeping, we're seeing definitely hoteliers are understanding and seeing the impact that it's having on the industry. They're seeing other hotels implementing it, hearing about the success stories, understanding the benefits of it, and also I think importantly about the guest satisfaction part of it, because I think that part actually comes as a surprise to some hoteliers. They maybe, as I said before, think initially that is something that they are taking away from the guest. Instead, what they're actually doing, they're providing more service by providing this flexibility of selecting your housekeeping. So I think there are many facets to this, but definitely yes, we are seeing better training and better implementation of it based on the tools and the feedback the tools give about how well it's going.
I really like the sentence you said. You're not taking away a service, you're providing more. I love that. I love that mindset. It's really, really good. Okay, that's awesome. And unfortunately, that's the end of this very short video. So that's it for today. So Erlendur, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us and for sharing such valuable insights with hoteliers. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Paula. It was a pleasure. And of course, if any questions, anyone wants additional information, feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, thanks to everybody who watched this video. Really appreciate it. And if you want to learn more about Sweeply, you can find them on the Cloudbeds marketplace. So thanks again, everyone, and see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.